Today's episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast is brought to you by Port Richards Cafe, TechSense Senior Residential Care Homes, ATD Painting, and Performance Food Group. Port Richards Cafe, Plano's oldest restaurant since 1973. They are open daily from 5:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., serving the three most important meals of the day: breakfast, lunch, and dessert. It is true Texas home-style cooking made with love and grit. That is Port Richards Cafe, located off of Avenue K in Plano. TechSense Senior Residential Care Homes, senior care at its best with a family atmosphere. They specialize in making their facilities as close to a home living experience as possible. Not only that, there are no move-in fees and there are no visitation restrictions. They are located near I-635 in Marsh Lane in Dallas, right near Carrollton. For more information, you can call 469-400-7650. That is TechSense Senior Residential Care Homes. And now, let's podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. My name is Matt Welch. I'm the sports editor at Star Local Media, and I am being joined by Kendrick Johnson and Taylor Raglin. Gentlemen, on today's podcast, we're going to take a trip down memory lane. So this is actually officially the 100th episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. So first of all, hard to believe that we made it this far. I think back to, what was it, like 14 months ago, Kendrick, you, me, and Tim Glaze were back in the conference room there, just waxing philosophical for about an hour on District 6XA football, and then
was that the first one?
That was the very first episode. And then thinking of just everything that's happened since then.
Shout out to Tim.
Yeah, all the structure of this podcast has evolved quite a bit. The production has changed a lot. We have a banner now. This podcast has really grown up over the past 14 months. So thank you to everybody who has been along for the ride and been following along over I guess 14 months or so that we've been at it. So I guess in honor of the 100th episode, we're just going to pay tribute to the year that was. Obviously 2018 is winding down. So and as is the case here at Star Local Media, near year end, we always go back through and come up with our top 5 or top 10 sports stories of the year, and we're in the process of compiling those lists as we speak. So with that information relatively fresh on the brain, we're going to go through and basically through all 14 of our markets and just talk about some of the standout moments from the year that was. Obviously plenty of fun things going on through our neck of the woods.
Especially MISD, they got a little everything.
Yeah, we can just start with McKinney, Kendrick. Obviously I don't know. Obviously, you know what? Let's not give away what the top story is for the year. We can discuss on just some of the stuff that is in consideration. But nevertheless, obviously, we want to save that for y'all to either check out your newspapers or check out our website, starlocalmedia.com, whenever that information is published. But nevertheless, Kendrick, I don't know where it's kind of obvious. I don't know where it's going to finish, but I would imagine, yes, a certain $70 million stadium is probably going to be somewhere near the top of your list. Just talk a bit about some of the memorable moments from McKinney ISD in 2018.
I can go two for a school. The two for McKinney High, most definitely the run that Coach Marcus Shavers went on, 0-5. Yeah. How can they win 2 games and they end up winning 4, getting in the playoffs, shock the city, shock the state, and they're only going to get better first year. The McKinney girls volleyball team wasn't as it was one kind of like, how can they find their way into the playoffs? And now they go to the playoffs, they go 3 deep. Yep. Props to Coach Erin Hickenbach and her squad. Had a great. They were like the true definition. You know how people have the cliches. We lock arms. We're step by step. Like they really lived that life, and that's why they won. It was like, and you see them play teams that were more talented than them, but they went step by step, and they were taking those L's. And then North, their boys and girls basketball team for the 9th in a row, both made the playoffs, 9 consecutive years. And their softball team continued their streak of going to playoffs every year. The program's been open. Those are the 3 longest streaks in McKinney playoff streaks, and they all at North. The girls softball team is like 15 or 16 years because they never went without going to the playoffs, and then the 2 boys and girls basketball teams are 9. And then the soccer girls for North won a playoff game and played Highland Park, who's a perennial powerhouse, and only lost by 1 goal, made a good account for themselves. And then at McKinney Boyd, I talked to Coach Peak and company, a controversial call away from the state championship game. One of the few times I've been covering a game, I felt like for those kids that they had a controversial game. The guy came and peeled back. Technically it was on sides, but you can't see, there's no replay. So that's how that's how the cookie crumbles humble. We way out in, Matt and them had me way out in windy West Texas. I'm talking about like it was sandstorms. Like you're in the press box dodging sand.
Was it out in Midland?
It was Midland, okay. Yeah, way out there.
Well, Grande Communication Stadium.
Oh, you been there before?
I've heard of it though. I've never been out to Midland. I've heard of it though.
He says me, but he doesn't go.
Hey, it's your beat.
And then, of course, the $70 million palace, that's MISD Stadium, that I'm glad I kind of came on in the end, like when they made the bonds and all this stuff. I wasn't on staff, but I heard there was a lot of controversy. But if you see the stadium, it's the real deal, and I think they got the crown jewel by getting the Division II national championship game. That was on ESPN just this weekend, and did Bonzo ratings, and everybody that walked in there, a lot of these people are from like Minnesota, Virginia, Georgia. They don't know nothing about Texas high school football. This is a high school stadium. I got that look like 5 times, so that it kind of sells itself.
When you think back, because obviously the stadium was just such a top of mind storyline, not just in McKinney, but just throughout the Metroplex, throughout the state. I mean, with it finally being unveiled this season, what do you remember about just the opening weekend and just all the pomp and circumstance surrounding the opening of the stadium back in August?
In fact, they had 3 games. People don't realize that they had High and North played that kicked it all open on Thursday, and then Boyd played Rowlett on Friday, and then they had Prosper and Naaman, something they call the McKinney Classic. They're going to start that every year. That kind of got, for them, the people that worked there for MISD, they got their hand, like 3 games to kind of get the kinks worked out. So when they got the district, everything was rolling and the attendance was really high. If it wasn't for the rain, they would have had sellouts against like Allen game was raining, and a couple games in the first week was perfect weather, and then from week 2 to week 5 they had a rain delay at least one of the games every week. So if it wasn't for the rain delay, they would have had record attendance at MISD, which is because some people just came out there just to see the stadium.
I don't know where it would rank just among like the most notable storylines, because this isn't specific to any one particular city. But you mentioned the weather, and when we were going over our considerations for for the top 10 list for Allen and Plano, it's almost like you can't leave out just the weather and just that story in general, and just what a big factor that played in high school football this fall. It was like I've never seen anything like it.
Like in sports like cross country, I forgot to mention London Colbreth.
Of course,
3 state titles in 3 years. 57 races and 57 wins, and she keeps on. And this year she didn't set the state record because they ran on a already muddy track and slowed down. So she did what she had to do to get the win, but it was a record-setting condition. So it even affect cross country this year. So the weather is a undercover story of its own.
Taylor, let's shift gears. Let's talk Plano for a bit. So,
sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously plenty of different directions to go for Plano ISD in 2018. What is the one thing that springs to mind though when you think back on the year that was for PISD?
I mean, I think there were a lot for me. In my beat and my side of things, there were a lot of like real dominant individual performances. I mean, you think about Ashlyn Hilliard and just her run through the cross country postseason, basically demolishing everybody on our way to a first state title. Libby Winans doing the same for Plano East in girls golf. Tommy Boone ends up with bronze, in golf at state, and typically that would be a fantastic year for an individual golfer. He's only outshined by Winans, obviously, sweeping through the postseason and earning a gold medal. The first one for Plano East ever. Not the first one for PISD, obviously. I think Parker Cootie it was, I believe, in 2017, and some other ones. But first one for Plano East, so a big moment there. Then I think about postseason runs, I guess, for some teams. West Volleyball was one I covered a lot. Covered pretty much every step of the way. How that all kind of materialized was really cool because they had such a down stretch, I guess, to put it politely, in the middle of the district slate. It looked like maybe their youth would get to them. We had many conversations where it was just like, I don't know how West, recovers from this. It seems like they've stumbled one too many times. They're going to get in the playoffs, but now we're unsure about what they're going to be able to do when they get there. And then all of a sudden they rattle off a run to the state tournament under first-year head coach Justin Waters. Plano softball, you think about that run in the postseason. Finally exercising the demon that is Keller, the PISD overall demon. Keller beating so many Plano schools. Then obviously Smith. Scott Smith at Plano West was one of the bigger ones I covered. Plano West football, a story in its own. 0 for their last 26, 2 straight years of 0-10. For the state's second biggest school, that's a huge story. Obviously it results in Smith accepting a new position and moving into administration situation and opening up that job, which, is still a huge story because, anytime a Plano football leader of the pack position comes up, it's going to be a huge deal, and I'm sure people are applying from all over the state, probably out of state for all I know. I mean, it's a huge deal and a huge draw, so it'll be really interesting to follow, where that goes and who gets tapped to try to get that thing back on track.
Doesn't Winans have a sister?
Yes.
Yeah, she's a legit golfer. She played in the LPGA tournament because I was doing a story.
Yeah, Megan Winans, I believe, is her
They must
first
really
name.
be some good golfers.
Yeah, runs in the family.
And Winans is, I guess, currently at OU now because she was a senior last year. And Megan, I believe, I saw on Twitter earlier, has committed to OU also. So following right in the Winans family lineage there.
She played on the LPGA tour. Yeah. She got the exemption that she earned by outplaying people in college, including, I think, the bigger sister.
Wow.
Yep.
She outplayed her in that tournament.
They're both very good.
Yeah, you mentioned, what was it, Plano softball, and that's obviously when I look back on 2018 in Plano, it's just the collective dominance of Plano senior girls athletics.
Oh man, yeah,
maybe
everybody.
I mean maybe as great a year as a girls athletics program has had in Plano ISD's history, and obviously yes, the softball team getting to the state semifinals, that was just to see it as it unfolded, doing what they did against Keller, with like you mentioned the bugaboo that Keller had been in PISD's side, and just a one-game playoff. You think about players like Audrey McNeil and just the job that she did setting up all throughout that postseason. Those seniors, Emily Knight, Bronte Roden, and Lindsay Edwards, and just the. I've never covered a team that had a knack for the long ball quite like that Plano softball team. They were. They hit more home runs in the playoffs than most teams do in an entire season. It was a special team, and obviously you can't go talking about Plano senior girls athletics without mentioning what happened with the girls basketball team and the run that they got on and capturing their first ever state championship, and what a unique team that was. Just the way that it was constructed, just the senior leadership and just the strong underclassmen players like Jordan Merritt and Zaria Collins, Michaela Edens, Maggie Robbins there to complement that senior core of Katie Farrell, Emma Halverson, Sophie Fleites, Lolo Davenport, and just how it all just seemed to kind of come together at once for them. In the fourth round of the playoffs when they got Lolo back, and just how that took them up a notch to the point where you were watching them and they were handling Duncanville in the second half of the regional finals, and you never see that happen. You never see a team just taking it to what has been the premier girls basketball program in the state and maybe the country. And they're obviously able to check off 2 more wins when they got down to San Antonio, including a one against Judson that went right down to the wire. So yes, obviously very cool to see them rewarded for all their hard work, and definitely one of the better just pound for pound teams that I've covered in my tenure here at Star Local Media. And obviously then what the track team was able to do later on that spring, with placing 5th overall at state. Kennedy Blackman, one of the great singular track state track performances within PISD, bringing home 2 medals, including a gold in the 400, and I just think back to when they because they had a really long they snapped a really long district title drought in the process, and just the emotions that overcame that entire team, especially head coach Ahmed Dadari when they are when it chimed over the PA that they were declared district champions. Just a really cool moment. Nice to see them be able to build off of that momentum and bring home some hardware from Austin. Let's shift gears to let's talk some Lake Cities. Let's shift over to the Denton County neck of the woods. And I'd say this was a resurgent, I should say, 2018 for Lake Cities. Like in 2017, we were having to compile our year-end list. I want to say Lake Dallas had made the playoffs in maybe like 2 sports. Yeah, I wasn't here, but based on the season previews I've done for teams and talking to the coaches, especially the ones that have been around a couple years, I definitely got that vibe where pretty much every team at Lake Dallas, it seemed like they were trying to get back into the postseason. And now, my overall impression of Lake Dallas is it seems like every single one of their teams is filled with youth. And it was improvements almost all across the board in 2018 for Lake Dallas.
Yeah, absolutely. I look at the baseball team, which, granted, the baseball team is maybe one of the teams that will lose. Obviously you lose Mason Meeks, which is, an incredible talent. He was lights out. I don't remember exactly. Was it 0 earned runs in district? I don't know. It was something ludicrous.
Something ridiculous.
All he did was won the game.
Yeah, like he was unbelievable in helping them make the playoffs. For me, I guess in my beats, volleyball was really one that I covered a lot. They brought in Jason Raymer down from Central Texas, that area. He has a tradition for building programs up and kind of getting programs started on extended I guess paths of success, I guess is a word you could use, but not a lot of people expected them to make the playoffs this season. They were so young, and like I said, that was kind of a theme throughout Lake Dallas. They found a way to get into the postseason. The girls basketball team found a way to get in the postseason. Football obviously continued its success. Getting back to the postseason, got bounced in the first round by a good Corsicana team on the road, but another good year under Ryan Depperschmidt's leadership, essentially. So, yeah, pretty much across the board, Lake Dallas. I mean, it's a different scale, I think, than a district like PISD, where there's so many schools, so many athletes, so many extended playoff runs, and the measure of success can be a little different. But for Lake Dallas, I think certainly, for a one school town like that, and a one school community for all the sports that they had made the postseason, it was a good solid year for the Falcons and Lady Falcons, absolutely.
I got to also take a note the boys soccer team.
Oh yeah,
it's best year across the board. Yeah, best year ever by whatever metric you want to measure that by.
That's
you were there to see them make history with their first ever playoff win when they beat Lone Star.
Yeah, if I go back and I've been working here since mid-February or so, and that was one of the games I covered obviously early in my time here, but it still holds up as one of the best I've seen and covered this year, and you were talking about the emotion with the Plano girls track team. You talk about emotion, that Lake Dallas boys soccer team finally breaking through, getting that playoff win. It was a cool deal. It was a cool deal, and they're hopefully set up for some more success out there for the Falcons.
Let's round out the first half of this podcast with just some reminiscing on the year that was out in Allen.
So they're champions, as they say.
A banner year for Allen. I mean, they made the playoffs in
about those differing expectations.
They made the playoffs in all 8 standings-based sports. I believe that's the first time that they've done that in a long time, if not the first time ever. And then obviously we were kind of wrestling back and forth with just how to structure the our top 10, because you had 4 storylines, 4 teams that you could all make a case belong somewhere in the top 4. Just was a question of kind of sorting them out based on what they accomplished. As far as just sheer state championships, you had at least within for teams, you had boys basketball, you had wrestling. I mean, the wrestling team, as much as
8 in a row,
9 in a row, yes,
yeah,
9 in a row.
My bad, I'm short-changing.
It's literally. I talked to Plano West wrestling coach this week, and it's like one of those situations where it's almost like Allen football. It's more dominant than Allen football. If you're in the district with Allen, you just realize that you're all fighting for second, and there's nothing you can do about it.
As high profile as Allen's football program is, and rightfully so, it gets overlooked that no, wrestling is the sport that Allen is the best at. That is their best sport, because they are on a run of dominance like few athletic programs, honestly, in UIL history. I'm not sure what you even compare it to, because it's not only is it 9 consecutive state championships, but a lot of the time, they've got those state titles wrapped up essentially by the end of the first day of state.
Last year, I remember one of us wrote that story when we were talking about it. I think their first day total would have won state.
They've rewritten the record books for the UIL state competition, and it's just insane to see how that program continues to just raise the bar for itself. As high as that bar is, you had them winning another state championship. You had the boys basketball team winning their first state championship, and what was certainly at least for me, kind of maybe the seminal game, the seminal moment of my 2018 sports coverage was just that state championship win over Katie Tompkins, and just it went to overtime, and just the visual of Katie, Tompkins has the ball and they're going for the win. They miss the shot. Allen gets the rebound. Jalen Walker turns and he just heaves an outlet pass to Donovan Parham, who's streaking down court all alone with inside the closing seconds of overtime. He lays it in with like 1.5 seconds left or something crazy like that, and yeah, lifts Allen to obviously a very, very emotional state championship victory.
The Geyer game, because
the Geyer game too.
That goes with the theory we always talk about. That it's hard to be a team 3 times in high school sports,
especially when that team throws a game plan at you that you had no idea was coming. Because Allen, they slowed that game down to a snail's pace and had the number one team.
Had that Princeton offense.
Oh yeah, they had the number one team in the state just completely just frazzled, and just watching them slay not only Denton Geyer but Austin Westlake in the state semifinals, the number 1 and number 2 teams in the state at the time. I mean, both of whom were trotting out. Well, you could classify Geyer and Westlake as high school all-star teams with the number of 4 and 5-star kids that they had.
At least 3 on each team. I remember.
And you had Allen, which Allen was a deep team as you'd expect, but it was a team of
4 or 5 stars.
That no 5 stars, no 4 stars, but it was a team that played so well together. They were they were a very well coached team. They were versatile. They could you had 5 guys that could all take on different responsibilities, and they that's a smart team to a really high IQ team, and a team kind of like Plano that really just kind of got hot, and because they were in the same district as Geyer,
and they weren't going to beat themselves either.
Yeah, it wasn't a team that at least watching they were in the same district as Denton Geyer, so I don't know how realistic a state championship might have felt for Allen, but once they were able to slay that beast in Denton Geyer, and then they went on to state. Oh yeah, and they played lights out. They ran the number 2 team in the state, Westlake, off the floor in the state semis, and Tompkins kind of had a lot of the same kinds of athletes and very similar team physically, and that game was very competitive, went to overtime, and just a terrific year for Allen boys basketball by any measure, and obviously Coach Jeff McCullough is as good a coach as you'll find in the state, and so you think about that, you think about obviously the football team had another great year going to the state semifinals, and all the just the usual pomp and circumstance that comes with another year on the gridiron with Allen.
Why people take it like when they lose? Like I know they're a really good team, like they were invincible, or didn't I heard like they really weren't that good anyway compared to what we've been having. I'm thinking like
they're
the number 1 team in the nation.
Yeah, they were awesome.
They were in the nation. They just lost to a bad day.
Yeah, there are lots of really good teams.
How are you supposed to win by like on average like 37, some absurd?
I'd have to go back. I actually haven't calculated.
Their margin of difference was bigger this year than it was last year when they won state, wasn't it?
I actually haven't gone and calculated that.
This is the analytics man of Star Local Media.
It was typical Allen though. They won every game in the regular season by at least 4 touchdowns, and
nobody 9-6-8 want to swing on them.
Yeah,
they like the bully that gets away with everything.
Allen had still had a great year, and but then not only did you have Allen having another successful season at the high school level, but you had at the collegiate and national scene. You had Allen's. Maybe as high profile as Allen has ever been at that level, with what Kyler Murray did is still doing up in Norman.
But the thing is, they don't get Allen their props though. Like, I know Allen residents get mad. They say from the suburbs of Dallas, which is very vague. So that's Frisco, Allen, McKinney. They don't really give Allen their full props.
I heard plenty. I'm an OU alum. I watched every game, obviously, and Allen, Texas got plenty of shout outs on OU telecasts, especially anytime that Kyler Murray threw a touchdown to Lee Morris, the Allen on Allen connection right there. They made sure every single time, like clockwork, that they were teammates back in high school at Allen, Texas, and all that. And it's just obviously nobody in Allen was shocked to see what Kyler did. Obviously the nation kind of realized what Texas had known.
Exactly. Like a lot of people, a lot of my national friends are like, was he that good? Like he's probably the best dude that came through Texas in the last 20 years, I'd say. Watching.
Some think he's the greatest ever to come through the high school.
His resume, I won't say he's the greatest ever high school player, but his resume is the most impeccable.
Oh yeah.
He's definitely got the greatest resume.
42-0, Gatorade National Player of the Year.
3 state titles.
Yep, 3 state titles in the UIL's highest classification.
Yeah.
Great times, and obviously then rewarded, with his hard work by winning the Heisman Trophy recently, and now he's got a chance to bring a national championship back to Norman.
And the old Alabama Invitational.
Yeah. So obviously, Allen making headlines not just at the high school level, but on a national scope as well. Let's see. That's at least within our neck of the woods. A look back at some of these standout moments from 2018.
Positives for McKinney, Allen, and Plano.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
that's crazy.
9-6-8 representing.
Never a dull moment working in this neck of the woods.
The thing I like now is like when you see them playing certain sports like volleyball and like soccer. I think it's going to be the same thing. These teams that see the teams that we cover don't want no one to get the playoff season. You can already tell.
It's crazy.
Like you saw what happened in volleyball. I wouldn't be surprised in boys or girls soccer if the same thing happened. They end up having to see each other because it's just so like anybody could have made the playoffs in girls.
It's crazy, especially in
volleyball.
Allen, because all those stories we talked about, push-out stories, like Lovejoy Volleyball went state again.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, girls soccer for Allen, regional finalist, right? I mean, it's crazy. And then a playoff streak of, 14 or 15 years for Allen girls softball gets snapped, and a crazy walk-off win over Wiley. Like,
that too. Let me pick up there, because obviously, if not with what the boys basketball team accomplished, the visual, the memory that, when I think back of this year in Allen, like what the softball team did and the fashion that they did it, having to rally in the bottom of the 7th, a walk-off win against a really good Wiley team to clinch a playoff spot, their first playoff berth since 2005. And just, I was talking about the emotions outpouring when Plano girls track won its district title. That was nothing compared to just what happened in Allen that night. And just the, talking afterwards to Melanie Meek, the girl who hit the walk-off single, and just how overcome with emotion and how teared up she was. And just the celebrations, for them once they realized, because it had been a long time coming, a drought that long, and to finally get back in the playoffs in the fashion that they did. What a memorable way for Allen softball to snap that playoff drought. Yeah,
and that's, like I said, that's a crazy thing, because you guys will have to, no spoilers here, you'll have to read the paper or look online, but you'll have to see if that even makes the list or where it makes the list, because of the prolific year that Allen, it was crazy. It was a lot of success in Allen this year.
Lots of fun stuff happening though elsewhere in our markets, and Devin Hasson, Justin Thomas, and Bryan Murphy are going to come on in a bit to discuss some of the standout moments from their respective beats, and we will see what they have to say after a word from this sponsor. Let's take a quick break to talk about ATD Painting. Whether it's painting, staining, carpentry, residential, commercial, interior, exterior, ATD Painting has you covered. They have 4 locations in the Metroplex, including Plano and Lewisville. You can call 972-694-8888 for more information, or you can visit their website at atdpainting.com. That is ATD Painting. Check it out to see just how affordable professional painting can be. And now, let's get back to the podcast.
All right, we've done a line change once again. Justin Thomas, Devin Hasson, Bryan Murphy. We're taking over the second half of this podcast for this segment. Year in review podcast, reflecting, looking back on the year that was in our markets. There's a lot of notable things, a lot of state champions, new programs, big time things happening in our markets. I don't know where to begin. I know, JT, I know you had plenty of state champions in your markets. I guess we'll start with you.
Yeah, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the Marcus girls soccer team in the spring, making state for the first time since 2005. I know you got the chance to cover some of those games, and they're pretty wild games out there.
The one that went to penalty shootouts, that was crazy.
But mainly I wanted to touch on some things that happened this fall. And I guess kind of the first thing I just wanted to hit on was just the football seasons for Flower Mound and Lewisville. 2 teams that had long playoff droughts. Flower Mound 2010, Lewisville's went all the way back to 2007. And both of them broke their streaks this year and did it in impressive fashion, finishing first and second in the district. Flower Mound, goes unbeaten in district. Lewisville had only 1 loss. Obviously, that was Flower Mound, and it was a game that they led by 20 points late in the third quarter. So they were almost the district champions, undefeated too. So
it kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
I know they single-handedly destroyed them in the picket line all season long.
So both of them kind of. I think coming into the year, I thought both of these teams had chances to make the playoffs. I did pick them both to make the playoffs, but I didn't kind of see them finishing first and second ahead of Hebert and Coppell. So really good seasons for both those teams. Obviously, Lewisville then wins a playoff game in triple overtime over Keller before running into a Duncanville team that I think we're all kind of seeing as a beast right now.
Who's Duncanville? I don't know who they are.
Well, you can see them Saturday if you want to get a little info on them. But yeah, so that was kind of the first thing I wanted to touch on, was just those kind of big seasons, kind of resurrection seasons for Flower Mound and Lewisville football, and we'll see how they can carry that momentum into next season.
I remember no one was talking about Lewisville, and then the first time you brought them up on a podcast we were talking, I was like, man, Lewisville, they're not a football powerhouse. Every time I drive through Lewisville, I see that 1995 state champions on the water tower on 35. I'm like, okay, they haven't done anything since then. And, going into the season, it was all Hebert and Coppell. We knew about those 2 powerhouses. So Lewisville wasn't on my radar. Flower Mound certainly wasn't either. So
I knew they had a good defense, and they definitely did, and that kind of carried them. And then obviously Flower Mound just had a dynamic offense this year with Blake Short and Pierce Hudgens, and Welch and all those guys. So
now sticking with the football theme here, I had 2 new football teams on the gridiron this year. Neither of them had seniors, which is pretty tough on a sport like football where you need size and experience to excel. And Frisco Memorial, they duked it out with Lebanon Trail earlier this year, got a game-winning touchdown in the final minute. That was big for them. Memorial's quarterback, Charlie Flowers, told me a few days after the game it felt like they just won state when they won. That's really cool, to see. Cause
that was pretty early in the season, too.
It was early in district play. Lebanon Trail, they also got a win early against the Fort Worth
maybe that's what I'm thinking.
In non-district. But the fact that Memorial beat Lebanon Trail, I was kind of picking Lebanon Trail to win. They've kind of been a program for 3 years now. And Memorial literally just started from scratch in the spring. Didn't even do spring ball. Like I said, they don't have seniors. Compiled kids from Lakeland, Lone Star, and Heritage, and just kind of like the Bad News Bears almost in a sense. But they're definitely a lot better than the Bad News Bears, and they beat Lebanon Trail, and that's a team that I've been saying the last few weeks that could be on the up and up here in the next few years, maybe be a potential Reedy type team.
You just saw how quickly you can build a program out
Sure, especially when you're pulling kids from Lone Star, which a proven program over the last 6 years or so. So I wanted to shout out Memorial while we're talking about football as well. Devin, did you have any football stories on your end?
I actually do. I wanted to kind of quick hit a couple of things in Mesquite. For the Mesquite programs, it was kind of about breakthroughs during the past year. You had the North Mesquite boys basketball team back almost an entire year ago. Hadn't made the playoffs since 2008. Looks like they had a series of near misses. They win 5 in a row down the stretch, including a play-in game against Mesquite, their rivals, to get back for the first time in a decade. The Sunnyvale girls basketball team was able to get back to the regional tournament for the first time since they won the state in 2015. Lost 41-40 to Mount Vernon in that semifinal, and Mount Vernon goes on to win the state championship. So that's just how close they were to doing that. Mesquite boys soccer wins their first district title since 2010. Again, kind of a lot of breakthroughs. Poteet volleyball had made the playoffs 20 straight years, but hadn't made it since 2015. They break through. But yeah, the one thing I thought, and this is kind of 2 stories in one, was in football, Horn. Head coach Mike Overton came into the season with 96 victories at MISD programs. He was 1 behind the all-time Mesquite ISD leader. You thought, okay, well, second week, 3rd week in September. Well, what was really thought to be a formality almost became, when is this ever going to happen? As Horn, as we talked about before, starts 0-7. And so he has to wait 2 months to get that going. But once Horn got going late, they obviously beat Rockball Heat. They finally got the monkey off their back to get that first district win. That tied him with Gary Childers, the longtime North Mesquite head coach at former Mesquite ISD athletic director, and who was one of the first members of the inaugural class in the Hall of Honor. That's how highly Gary Childers is thought of in Mesquite. So Mike Overton ties the record that week. The next week they beat North Mesquite, Gary Childers' former school, 56-0, and that gives Mike Overton his 98th career victory. Just a tremendous job. A guy, he was an assistant on that 2001 Mesquite State Championship team, left to give the Farmersville program for a couple of years, took over a West Mesquite team program that had made 2 playoff appearances in 24 years, and immediately turns them into a playoff team. He's never missed the playoffs since 2006. He moved over to Horn in 2013. Just a model of consistency. He's won everywhere he's been, and now he's the all-time Mesquite ISD coaching victory leader with 101, because he didn't stop at 97, because Horn all of a sudden went on that huge turnaround after the 0-7 start. They win 5 in a row. They were able to take down highly favored Temple in the opening round on a touchdown with 11 seconds left to pull out a 45-38 victory, and they followed that up with a win over Wiley before falling in the regional semifinals. So just a tremendous turnaround for Horn, and obviously congratulations to Mike Overton.
It's only fitting that he owns the record. He's coached at every Mesquite school in the book, pretty much.
He has bounced around a little bit.
Yeah, they waited till the games mattered the most to win those. Yeah, we were kind of worried. I remember talking on podcasts, are they going to win a game? Because they had that murderer's row to begin the year, Allen and whoever else. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but it was like, man, that was rough.
It was brutal. Yes, Allen, Highland Park, Cedar Hill, and Arlington was there, and then they get Longview and Rockwall to start district. So yeah, it was brutal.
All right, well, before we steer away from football, I wanted to just shout out Little Elm 7-on-7. I know we don't cover a whole lot of 7-on-7, but Little Elm 7-on-7 made state for the first time ever. They beat Austin Westlake in the first round of the state tournament down there in dramatic fashion. They won that one 30-27. Although that was the only game they would win At state, still, the fact of the matter of going to state and beating a powerhouse like that, big stuff there for the Little M football program as well. JT, what's next on your radar?
We got some state champions.
Yeah, you do.
State champions that need
We both do, yeah.
I think the two that I'm going to talk about, what's really cool about them is just kind of how they both kind of really pretty much flew under the radar all season, and then boom, state champions. The first one is Coppell girls cross country. So they won state, obviously. It's the first time they're ever winning state for their program. I don't think a lot of people saw it coming unless you talk to the Cowgirls, and definitely head coach Nick Benton. I mean, this is a team that, just to show you how crazy cross country is, he, throughout the year he kept kind of saying, we don't have a runner that's going to go win the state championship individually, but we have a lot of good runners, and the bigger the meet, the more competitive the meet, the better you're going to see us do. And that really showed itself in the postseason. I mean, the state champions, they finished second in district. They finished fourth in regionals. They snuck into state, finishing fourth. And then they get to state and they win it all. And they just have, everybody had their meet of their lives. Chloe Hassman, Rowie Hassman, Shelby Spoor, Natalie Fleming, who, by the way, I think I'm going to make it my life goal to get a photo where Natalie is smiling. I've never seen one yet. So, Natalie, I'm going to make you laugh in a photo one time. Then Madeline Halsey, Rebecca Centeno, and Morgan Cologne. So that was their roster, and just a great season for them, kind of coming out of nowhere and surprising everybody to win state and cross country this fall.
Speaking of teams that finished fourth in regionals or fourth in district that went on to win state, the Wakeland boys soccer team, everyone was kind of counting them out. Granted, that district in Frisco is really, really good at soccer, probably the best in 5A in the state from top to bottom. And, they won the state title in 2017, and then here they are, struggling to make the playoffs in 2018. It's like, man, what's going on? Sophomore slump for head coach Andy Holt in his second season. They graduated a ton of guys. And then they just go on this casual playoff run and just dominate everybody en route to a state title, a second consecutive state title on the boys' side. A really cool story about that team. Mark Barbonas, a sophomore, wins state tournament MVP. The year before, he was a team manager. He was on JV, but during the state tournament, their first state title run as a freshman, he was just kind of a manager. He was in blue jeans at the game. Coach Andy Holt told me that. He got a medal, but it was for, just helping out with the team. 1 year later, scores a goal in the most important game of his life, and tournament game MVP. And then it's only fitting that right before that game, the Wakeland girls, they win a state title, their first in about 8 years, since 2010, I believe. They send Sid Corey off into the sunset. He retired immediately after the game. Really awesome scene.
Style.
Yeah, very, very emotional, very dramatic scene there. And Wakeland boys and girls go back to back. It was pretty awesome. And also talking about cross country and sticking with Wakeland. Forgot to mention Wakeland girls cross country. They win their first ever state title as well. So just quite the year for Wakeland. Just reeling in all the state titles.
Yeah, all around. Yeah, and I touched on Mesquite earlier. I wanted to touch on the Rowlett area, whereas Mesquite was kind of all about breakthroughs during the past year. At the Rowlett Sachse area, it's about consistency and just their play. I mean, listen to some of these playoff streaks. Rowlett volleyball 22 years in a row, Sachse volleyball 15, Rowlett football 14. Rowlett girls soccer and boys soccer 16, Sachse girls soccer 10, Rowlett softball 14, Sachse softball 11, Rowlett baseball 19. I mean, it's just, every year in, year out, these teams are in the playoffs. But I didn't mention the Sachse girls basketball in that list, who has been a perennial playoff team in their own right. But that was probably the main story, the biggest story out of that market this year, as they finally break through that final barrier. They've been they've won district championship after district championship. It looked like the same old story last year. They extended their district winning streak to 41 in a row, won their third straight outright title. But you thought, is this going to be finally going to be the year that they break through and actually make some noise in the playoff stage? And they did. I mean, they took care of business early on, blowout wins over Lake Highlands, Horn, Tyler Lee. They get to the regional tournament. That's only their second regional tournament appearance, surprisingly enough, for all the success they've had. And then if we had a vote for game of the year between all of us, that regional semifinal game might have won it. That was the game against Pflugerville where they were down 27-4 early in the second quarter. I mean, they just didn't show up. And I mean, I'd sit there and I'd seen this team all season long, and I was baffled. And then all of a sudden they called a timeout and woke up. And that's what Don McCullough said. He said, we just woke up. And so they outscored Pflugerville 64-29, basically during the last 2.5 quarters to win that game 68-56. They're down 23 early, and they went going away. Yeah. Just an incredible comeback, and they kind of carried that momentum into the next day against Pflugerville-Hendrickson to win that game and advance to the state tournament for the first time in school history. And, you know, we're talking state championships, and we're talking to say, you know, for a lot of these Rowlett and ISD schools, I mean, I don't have a lot of state tournaments or state championships to talk about over there. I mean, it's a rare thing over there. You kind of talk about the Garland High football championships. Well, a lot of those were in the 60s and back in 56. And, you know, Rowlett boys track won back-to-back state championships when Marquise Goodwin was there, you know, a decade or so ago. But that's really all that you have to say outside of individual championships. So to make it to a state tournament is a huge feat for a GISD school because that talent is so spread out. I know the same is true at Frisco and some other school districts as well, but it hasn't translated into success deep in the playoffs. So just a tremendous season for Sachse. They almost made it to the finals. They lose to Converse Judson 71-66, and again, they actually led in the fourth quarter. And it'll be interesting to see what they can do this year. A much tougher region as Allen and Planos of the world move over. But Avery Krause, Jayla Brooks, Adhel Tack, Kayla Demas, and Tia Harvey, their entire starting five is back this year. So looking forward to see what they can do, see if they can repeat that run and maybe take it a step further.
One team you didn't mention was Prosper. You mentioned Allen and Plano and stuff.
Because Sachse's already beaten Prosper this year.
Okay.
So I'm counting.
Okay. Everyone displays Prosper now that they're in 6A. But this is one final thing I want to talk about. Prosper making the leap to Class 6A. Maybe I want to talk about volleyball. Last year they win the state title in their last season in Class 5A, and then they go into that murderer's row district, you know, with Plano West and McKinney Boyd, and everyone's talking about, you know, all those teams, you know, the Allens and whatnot, and Prosper just goes in there, goes undefeated, wins the district. I know a lot of people here didn't pick Prosper to even make the playoffs. I won't mention names. And then they have a nice little run through the playoffs. So I wanted to give Coach Aaron Kaufman and that squad, and Maddie Whitmire, who was our star local MVP that we selected a few weeks ago. I want to give them a good shout out for winning district in 9-6A, and Prosper football as well, finishing second in district and making the playoffs before running into Longview, who's now playing this weekend for a state title.
Well, that's a good transition because I saw that Prosper volleyball team play non-district, and I saw them play Flower Mound, and Flower Mound beat them. And Flower Mound also finished second in Pearland. They beat Plano West. They had, I think, 7 losses in non-district. They were all to state-ranked teams. For some reason, Flower Mound was never ranked this season. I don't know, like, volleyball history, per se, and the rankings and stuff, but I can't imagine too many teams have won state without being ranked. Like,
so they were never
ranked, and it was like halfway through district. You know, they're in a district with Coppell, who was ranked, and then Hebron, who had won 3 straight state championships, and they're winning the district, and they're not ranked. And I actually even tweeted at the TGCA, like, well, you know, what's going on? How is this team not ranked? So they just didn't get any respect all season, and I didn't really understand it because they had a really good non-district schedule, performed well, and then rolled through that district 6A and they didn't get any love until basically they took down number 1 Byron Nelson in the 3rd round. And finally people started to say, oh, this is a good team here in Flower Mound. And by that point I was kind of sold that they were going to win it, and you know, they didn't really get challenged too much the rest of the way. Their regional final match against Southlake Carroll was one of the most dominating volleyball matches I've seen. I think they went on a 23-3 run against Carroll. Like, wow. That's crazy. So, and then obviously they'd make it to state and pick up 2 more wins and get their first ever state championship. You mentioned Maddie Whitmire, our MVP. They had 3 players that we gave superlatives to: Kaylee Cox, Sarah Martinez, and Abby Butler.
That's also our Coach of the Year, too.
Coach of the Year, the Sheriff, Jamie Siegel. But, you know, players like Angelique Sear, she had to have been running for the Newcomer of the Year in the district. And then, you know, good senior leadership from players like Gabby White, Emily Merrick, and Reagan Hooper. So under the radar all year, not to them. You know, Coach Siegel, when I was talking to Sarah Martinez before they went to state for a little feature story, she said that when Coach Siegel, you know, this was her first year at Flower Mound, and when she introduced herself to the team, you know, back last spring, she told them all to, you know, pick out which finger they were going to put their state championship rings on. And I don't think the players really bought into it then, but she brought that mentality to the team, and, you know, gradually they just kept building confidence, and once they got to the playoffs, they just went on a roll and took home the championship. So.
Did you talk to them about that and the players have?
Yeah, Sarah Martinez was the one that told me that story, and she was saying, like, we've never been to state, we haven't been past the third round.
They thought she was crazy.
Yeah, but that mentality kind of really stuck with them, and I think it kind of carried them throughout the season. So.
What a year it was for the Flower Mound squads, all those Denton County teams, and Frisco ISD, Prosper, all your Mesquite and Sachse and Rowletts, and that'll just about do it for this edition of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. Christmas is right around the corner, so stay tuned for the schedule. Might change next week, we'll see, but hope everyone has a happy holidays.
Thanks for checking out this edition of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast, brought to you by Performance Food Group. They deliver more than 150,000 food and related products to customers all across the country. Their McKinney office is currently hiring Class A CDL drivers, order selectors, and many other entry and part-time positions. For more information, you can visit their website at pfgc.com/careers, or you can call 214-491-3130. That is Performance Food Group, located in McKinney at 500 Metro Park Drive.